Welcome back to another episode of Second Career Pilot.
Great to be here.
Today we're going to explore something absolutely fundamental to your journey as a pilot, especially if you're, just starting out. Understanding aviation weather services.
Oh yeah, weather. It's huge. And it can seem, well, pretty overwhelming at first.
It really can. You, our listener, shared a really comprehensive document on this, and our goal today is to sort of break down what you absolutely need to know.
Right. To confidently find and interpret weather information, it's all about flying safer and smarter.
Exactly. Think of this as your essential guide, your foundation for unlocking the world of aviation weather resources.
That's right. Aviation weather can feel like a foreign language initially, but once you grasp the basic building blocks, how the info is gathered, what it all means, you'll feel much more in control.
And this material you shared gives us a fantastic starting point.
Absolutely.
We've got a lot to cover, from how meteorologists actually collect all that weather data.
The observations.
Right, the observations, to the different kinds of reports and forecasts you'll encounter.
And how you see it in the cockpit, too, on those fancy displays.
Yeah, we'll touch on that, and importantly, we'll point out some limitations, things you always need to keep in mind.
Knowing what the information doesn't tell you, that can be just as critical.
So true. So where does it all begin? Well, the entire system, it's all built on gathering data, right?
It is. Observations are the foundation.
And our document highlights 4 key ways these weather observations are made. From the surface, up in the atmosphere, using radar and satellites.
It's like putting together a puzzle, really. Each method gives us a different piece of the atmospheric picture.
Okay, let's dive into surface observations first. A really common one you'll see, especially for airports, is the METAR.
METAR, Aviation Routine Weather Report. Basically, a snapshot of current weather at a specific airport.
Exactly. Our document explains what each part means and gives us this example. METAR KGG 1617753Z Auto 14021-226KT 34SM plus TSRA BR BKN 008 OVC 010CB A2017 A2970 RMK Press FR.
Whoa. Yeah, it looks like code, doesn't it?
It does, but it's actually very organized. Lots of info packed in there.
It's a code, yeah. But once you learn the keys, it's surprisingly readable. Tells you a ton. Let's break it down.
Okay, first up, KGG. The K usually tells us.
Contiguous U.S. airport. And GGG is the identifier. Gregg County in Texas, this one.
Got it. Next, 167753Z.
Okay, so 16 is the day of the month, 1753 is the time. And the Z, super important.
Zulu time. Coordinated Universal Time, UTC. The standard time in aviation.
Keeps everyone on the same clock, pilots, ATC, med folks, no matter the time zone. Avoids dangerous mix-ups.
Imagine the chaos otherwise, especially on long flights.
Total chaos. Zulu time is essential.
Okay, after the time, Ayutelo.
Simple enough. Just means it came from an automated system like ADOAS or ASOS, not a human observer.
Right, then the wind. 14021G26KT.
140 is the direction the wind's blowing from. 140 degrees true north.
So from the southeast, roughly?
Yep. 21 is the sustained speed in knots, and G26 means it's gusting up to 26 knots. KT's just knots.
So important for takeoff and landing calculations, especially crosswinds.
Absolutely. And sometimes you'll see VRB if the direction's variable, or maybe a range like under 20 V180 if it's shifting a lot.
Good to know. After wind, 34 SM.
Visibility.
Prevailing visibility, yeah. 3/4 of a statute mile. SM is always statute miles, like on the road.
3/4 of a mile. That's not very far. Visibility is definitely reduced.
Tells you things are a bit murky.
Then, plus TSRA, BR, the actual weather.
Okay, plus means heavy intensity. TSRA is thunderstorm with rain, and BR is mist.
So heavy thunderstorm with rain and mist, that's significant weather.
Definitely conditions you need to assess carefully against your limits, personal and aircraft.
No doubt. Next is sky condition, BKN 0008 OVC 010CB.
Tells us about the clouds. DKN is broken. 008 is the cloud base height, 800 feet above ground level, AGL.
Okay, 800 feet. Then OVC 012.
Overcast at 1,200 feet, AGL. And that's CB at the end. Very important.
CB cumulonimbus. Thunderstorm clouds. Big warning sign. Huge warning sign. Towering clouds, potential for hail, strong winds, the works.
And the amounts, BKN and OVC, how much sky cover is that?
It's measured in eighths of the sky. So FVW is 1/2, SCT or scattered is 3/4, BKN or broken is 5/7, and OVC overcast is 88ths, completely covered. SKC or CLR means clear.
Thinking in eighths, that helps visualize it. Okay, after clouds, 1817.
Temperature and dew point. always in degrees Celsius, so 18 degrees C temp, 17 degrees C dew point.
Wow, they are really close together.
Exactly. Means the air is nearly saturated, high humidity, that makes fog or mist much more likely.
And we already saw BR for mist in the weather part. Makes sense.
Yep. A big gap between temp and dew point usually means drier air.
Then A2970, that's the altimeter setting.
Right. The A means inches of mercury. So 29.70 inches, crucial for setting your altimeter correctly before flight.
So everyone in the area is using the same pressure reference for altitude. Safety critical.
Absolutely. A common reference point.
Finally, RMK, pre-SFR.
RMK is remarks, extra info. Pre-FR means pressure falling rapidly.
Another sign of changing weather. Maybe a low pressure system moving in.
Often is, yeah. Remarks can include all sorts of things. Lightning when rain started or stopped, equipment issues.
Gives you a bit more context. Now, the doc also mentions special reports.
Ah, yes. Special METARs. Issued any time between the regular hourly ones if there's a significant weather change?
Like if it suddenly goes from clear to thunderstorms.
Exactly. Gets that urgent update out fast.
And just to hammer it home, that Z in the time.
Zulu time. Universal. Always Zulu.
Okay, so METARs and SPECIs give us the ground picture.
Yeah.
But what about higher up? That's upper air observations, right?
Precisely. Critical for flight planning. Winds, temps, icing potential. All that happens aloft.
The document highlights a few ways we get this. First, radio sondes.
These are cool. Little instrument packages tied to balloons, helium or hydrogen.
And they float up, transmitting data.
Yep. Temp, humidity, pressure, winds as they ascend. About 1,000 feet a minute.
How high do they go?
Amazingly high. Over 115,000 feet sometimes. And they can drift hundreds of miles.
Wow. Gives you a sense of scale, then they just pop.
Blue bursts, yeah.
Oh.
The radio sonde comes down on a little parachute.
Fascinating. Then we have pilot weather reports or PIREPs.
Invaluable. The only real-time source for actual turbulence, actual icing, exact cloud tops or bases experienced by a pilot.
Nothing beats a first-hand account from the cockpit.
Exactly right. PIREPs confirm forecasts or, crucially, alert us to unexpected stuff the models missed.
So pilots are encouraged to file them.
Definitely, especially with low clouds or visibility. ATC is even required to ask for them in those conditions. It helps everyone build a better picture.
And the doc is an example TIREP. UAOV GGG 0900000006660TP C182S000000600 ET or VCWX FV04SM RADA 05WV090000025 is location. 25 nautical miles on the 090 from GGG VOR.
Okay. TM 1450 is time, 1450 Zulu, FL060.
Flight level 6,000 feet. TPC 182 is aircraft type. SUSC 182. SK080 AC sky condition. Overcast layer base at 8,000 feet.
WXFD04SMRA. Flight visibility 4 statute miles in rain. TA05 is temperature aloft, 5 degrees Celsius. WV 27000 KT is wind at that altitude from 270 degrees at 30 knots.
TB LGT turbulence.
Light turbulence, yeah. And RMHVY, rain, is a remark. Heavy rain, so very specific real-world info from that altitude.
Really paints a picture. The doc also mentions AMDR and MDCRS.
Ah, yes. Automated systems on commercial airliners. They automatically send back weather data during flight via data link.
So like automated PIREPs from the big jets?
Kinda, yeah. And there are thousands of flights, so they collect a massive amount of upper air data globally every day. Really helps fill in the gaps.
Improves the forecasts, I bet.
Significantly.
Okay, let's shift to radar observations. We see this on TV weather all the time. Crucial for seeing rain and stuff.
And wind, too, with Doppler. The document lists 4 main types. First, WSR-88D, or Doppler radar.
What's special about Doppler?
And it doesn't just see precipitation, it sees its movement towards or away from the radar.
Yeah.
That helps detect wind shear inside storms.
Nasty stuff.
Very. These radars have a sensitive, clear air mode and a precipitation mode that updates faster when it's raining or snowing. Intensity is measured in dBz.
Right. Then there's TDWR, Terminal Doppler Weather Radar.
Yep, specifically for major airports, designed to spot localized hazards like wind shear, gust fronts, heavy rain right near the runways. Critical for takeoffs and landings.
Makes sense. Third is FAA Airport Surveillance Radar.
Its main job is tracking planes, but it also shows precipitation.
Yeah.
Helps ATC route aircraft around weather near the airport.
And finally, Airborne Radar.
The radar some planes have on board lets pilots see weather ahead of them. Great for tactical avoidance.
Helps you steer around the storms.
Exactly. Different frequencies let it see lighter rain and also penetrate heavier stuff to see what's behind it.
And the last observation method mentioned is satellite technology.
Yeah, satellites give that big picture view. And now we have commercial weather uplinks, bringing near real-time satellite imagery and other data right into the cockpit via subscription services.
Bird's eye view of cloud patterns, storm systems. Very useful.
Definitely helps see the large scale.
Okay, so we know how the data is gathered. Now, where do we pilots actually get this information? The service outlets.
Right, how the info is distributed.
First, and maybe most important, the Flight Service Station, FSS.
Your primary source for pre-flight weather, the doc says. And they're right. You call 1-800-WX-BRIEF.
247 access to a weather specialist for a detailed briefing tailored to your flight. They also do in-flight services.
Calling flight service is really a cornerstone of good pre-flight. Don't skip it.
Agreed. Then there's TEBS, Telephone Information Briefing Service.
Automated recordings from FSS, rope briefings, area briefings. Good for a quick overview, maybe?
Yeah, the doc calls it a preliminary tool, not a replacement for talking to a briefer. And you need a touch-tone phone.
Right. Just gets you started.
Next, High-WAS Hazardous In-Flight Weather Advisory Service.
This is important for en route. Continuous broadcast of hazardous stuff, AIRMETs, SIGMETs, urgent PIRAPs over certain VORs.
You find them on the chart by looking for an H in the VOR box.
That's the one. Lets you listen for urgent weather without calling anyone. Kind of like a weather hazard radio watch.
Useful for staying aware while flying. Available in the lower 48.
Yep.
And for flyers in Alaska, there's TWE transcribed weather broadcast.
Alaska only. Continuous automated broadcasts over certain NEVAIDs. Weather, NOTAMs, forecasts.
Again, helpful, but generally not considered a substitute for a full briefing there either.
Correct. Just another tool for that unique environment.
Now, the weather briefing itself, absolutely essential before any flight. 3 main types mentioned: standard, abbreviated, and Outlook.
Knowing which one to ask for helps the briefer give you the right info efficiently.
Let's start with standard briefing. This is the big one, right?
It is. Most complete. You request this before any flight as part of your thorough pre-flight planning.
The doc lists 10 key elements it covers. Adverse conditions, if VFR flight isn't recommended.
A synopsis of the big picture, current conditions, en route forecast, destination forecast.
Winds and temps aloft, no TAMs, known ATC delays, and anything else pertinent like TFRs.
It aims to give you that complete picture you need to make a safe go-no-go decision. It's your risk assessment fuel.
Don't treat it like just checking a box. Okay, then the abbreviated briefing.
Shorter version. Use it if your flight's delayed or you need to update an earlier briefing.
You need to tell the briefer when you got your last full brief, right?
Crucial, so they know what needs updating and don't miss anything new and important. Always good to get updates if time passes or weather looks like it's changing.
Makes sense. Lastly, the Outlook briefing.
You ask for this if your departure is, like, 6 or more hours away.
Gives you initial trends, a general idea.
Yeah, but it's limited because it's far out. Good for early planning, but you must get a standard briefing closer to departure time. Weather can change a lot in 6+ hours.
Definitely shouldn't make final decisions based only on an Outlook.
Never.
All right, we've covered observations and where to get info. Let's move to aviation forecasts. Predicting the future weather.
Taking observations and using science and models to predict how things will evolve. They're not perfect, but increasingly accurate and vital for planning.
First up, terminal aerodrome forecasts, TFs.
Forecasts just for the area around larger airports, about a 5-mile radius, usually valid 24 or 30 hours.
And updated 4 times a day.
Roughly every 6 hours, yeah. Here's the example. TAHKPI 111130Z, 111120Z, 11121112 tempo, 11121114 5SM, BRFM 12 Angora, 16015 G25KT, P6SM, FM1 Toro CM, BKN080, PT6M, BKN0 2000, BKN0124 AVCCB, FM120AT, P6SM, SL130Z, TFS012 or VC AZ0, DF44 1 day on the 12th, TSM 1130 Zulu.
And 11-112-1212 is the valid period, from 1200Z on the 11th to 1200Z on the 12th, a 24-hour forecast.
Then it forecasts wind, visibility, sky conditions.
Yeah.
But it also has these change groups like FM and tempo.
Right, FM means from, indicating a significant, pretty rapid change is expected around that time. Usually happens within an hour.
Like a new weather system moving in. Could be. Tempo is for temporary fluctuations. Conditions expected to deviate for less than an hour at a time, happening off and on during that period.
And pre-O 30.
Means a 30% probability of specific conditions, like thunderstorms in the example, during that time frame. Less than 50%, so not the main forecast, but a heads up.
So the TAF shows how the weather's expected to change over time at that airport. Very useful.
Very. Helps you plan arrivals or departures.
Next, area forecasts. FAs, these are broader.
Much broader, cover large regions, several states, Give you the picture for clouds, general weather, VMC over that whole area.
6 regions in the contiguous U.S. issued 3 times daily, valid for 18 hours. Important for flying between airports that don't have TAFs.
Exactly. Gives you the en route context. They have 4 sections.
Yeah.
Header, precautionary statements.
That's where they mention things like IFR, or mountain obscuration, and those AIRMETs.
Yep. AIRMETs, Sierra for IFR mountain obscuration, Tango for turbulence with strong winds, wind shear, Zulu for icing freezing levels. If those are active, pay attention.
Definitely. Then the other sections.
A synopsis explaining the large-scale systems driving the weather, and then the detailed VFR clouds and weather breakdown for different parts of the region.
Gives you that big picture view for your route.
Essential regional context.
Then we have in-flight weather advisories. These are warnings for hazardous weather while you're flying. 3 types: AIRMETs, SIGMETs, convective SIGMETs.
Crucial for safety, alerting you to hazards that could affect your flight right now.
We mentioned AIRMETs all already with the FAs. Issued every 6 hours, updated as needed. Hazardous to light aircraft or pilots with limited capability.
Right. Moderate icing, moderate turbulence, strong surface winds, 30-plus knots, widespread low ceilings visibility, mountain obscuration, Sierra, Tango, Zulu codes tell you the type.
So hazards that might really affect smaller planes or VFR pilots?
Generally, yes.
Okay, then SIGMETs, WSs. These sound more serious.
They are. Unscheduled, valid 4-6 hours usually. For non-convective weather, hazardous to all aircraft.
Like severe icing, severe or extreme turbulence, including clear air turbulence.
Widespread dust or sandstorms, reducing visibility below 3 miles. Volcanic ash. These affect everyone, identified by letters, like SIGMET Romeo in the example.
So, more severe widespread hazards.
That's the idea.
And finally, convective SIGMETs, WSTs. These are specifically for
Thunderstorms, severe ones, defined as having 50-plus knot winds, 34-inch hail or larger, or tornadoes.
Also covers embedded storms, lines of storms, large areas of heavy storms.
Correct. Issued hourly, valid for 2 hours, for eastern, central, and western U.S. regions. Even if there's nothing, they issue one saying none.
All about the immediate significant hazards from thunderstorms.
Which can pop up and change really fast.
Last forecast type, winds and temperature aloft forecasts, FB.
Give you forecast wind direction, speed, and temperature at specific altitudes for various locations, based on those radiosonde balloon launches.
Issued twice a day. Uses those coded number groups, like 4 or 6 digits.
Yep. In the special coding, if winds are over 99 knots, they add 50 to the direction and subtract 100 from the speed. The doc explains it with examples.
Super useful for planning your cruise altitude for best fuel economy, avoiding headwinds, and knowing temps for performance or icing checks.
Absolutely helps pick the most efficient and comfortable altitude.
Okay, observations, forecasts. Now, visualizing it all with weather charts.
Charts give you that graphical overview, great for initial planning, seeing the big patterns quickly.
First, the surface analysis chart. Shows current surface weather.
Every 3 hours. Depicts pressure systems, highs, lows, fronts, cold, warm, stationary, occluded, temps, dew points, winds, local weather. Uses those little station models.
Ah, the station model. Looks like a little symbol with numbers and lines around it.
That's it. Packs a ton of info graphically. Sky cover, pressure, pressure trend, dew point, current weather, temp, wind direction, and speed. Learning to decode it is key.
Helps you see the relationship between pressure systems and the actual weather on the ground.
Exactly. A snapshot of the surface right now.
Next, the weather depiction chart. What does this one show?
Also based on current METARs every 3 hours. Focuses on graphically showing flight conditions, areas that are IFR, MVFR, or VFR.
So low ceilings visibility, IFR, marginal conditions, MVFR, or good weather, VFR. Uses colors or shading.
Often, yeah. Solid colors might be IFR, hatched areas, MVFR, clear areas, VFR. Also shows fronts and troughs, gives a quick visual check of where a VFR flight is feasible.
Good for a fast look at conditions across a region.
Very quick overview of visual conditions.
Then significant weather prognostic charts, prog charts, these forecast hazards.
Yes. We'll focus on the low-level one, surface to 24,000 feet, FL240, issued 4 times a day, with 12-hour and 24-hour forecast panels.
What hazards do they show?
Things like freezing levels, areas of moderate or greater turbulence, and areas where IFR, MVFR conditions, low seedings Vavis, are forecast.
So it visually forecasts where you might encounter icing, bumps, or need to fly IFR.
Pretty much. Incredibly useful for pre-flight planning to identify potential problem areas on your route. There are longer-range 300, 648-hour charts, too, for more strategic planning.
Okay, let's bring this into the modern cockpit. Lots of planes now have electronic flight displays, EFDs, or multifunction displays, MFDs, that show weather.
Game changer for situational awareness. The document lists a ton of products you might see. Graphical NEXRAD, METARs, TAFs, winds, cloud tops, lightning.
Storm tracks, SIGMETs, AIRMETs graphically, surface analysis, TFRs, it's amazing.
It really is.
Right.
But, and this is a huge but, you absolutely have to understand the age and expiration of that data.
Right. Just because it's on your screen doesn't mean it's happening right now.
Exactly. It's near real time, but there are delays. Collection, processing, transmission. Always check the timestamp. Assume it's at least several minutes old, maybe more.
Especially true for NEXRAD radar imagery in the cockpit, right? That's a big one.
Huge one. It has limitations beyond just age. Things like ground clutter can show up. More importantly, basic radar doesn't show precipitation type or storms directly overhead sometimes.
And the resolution changes with the range you select.
But the absolute most critical thing, the take-home message for in-cockpit NEXRAD.
Is that it shows where the rain was, not where it is.
Precisely. The delay can easily be 15-20 minutes or more. You cannot use it to navigate through gaps in storms or penetrate weather. It's for strategic avoidance only. Big picture awareness.
That needs to be drilled into every pilot's head. It's a supplemental tool, not primary avoidance for close-in work.
Absolutely. Use it wisely, know its limits. Misunderstanding it is dangerous.
The doc also says AIRMETs and SIGMETs can be shown graphically.
Yeah, instead of just text coordinates, you see the hazard area outlined or shaded right on your map display. Much easier to interpret quickly while flying.
Great for seeing where the bad areas are relative to your route.
Excellent situational awareness boost.
And graphical METARs.
Little color-coded flags or symbols at airports on the map. Green for VFR, maybe yellow for MBFR, red for IFR. Lets you quickly scan conditions along your route or at alternates.
Quick glance gives you the general airport status.
Very handy.
So, zooming out slightly, let's talk data link weather services generally, getting this info broadcast to the plane.
Overcomes radio range limitations, gives you continuous updates nationwide.
A key service is FISB, Flight Information Service Broadcast.
Uses the 978 MHz UAT data link. Broadcasts a whole suite of weather and flight info. METARs, TAFs, NEXRAD, NOTAMs, AIRMETs, SIGMETs, PIREPs, TFRs.
Lots of stuff, but the document stresses something important.
Yes, FISB products are for informational purposes only. They do not meet the regulatory requirement for an official pre-flight weather briefing.
And they still have that latency issue we talked about.
Correct. Great for in-flight awareness, but you can't legally rely only on FISB for your required pre-flight planning. And the data isn't perfectly instantaneous.
Which leads perfectly into the final critical point, pilot responsibility.
Ultimately, it's all on you, the pilot in command. You must understand the capabilities and, just as crucially, the limitations of every weather source you use.
The doc lists key things to keep in mind. Always be aware of product latency. Check those timestamps.
Know the update cycles for different products. Recognize any system failures on your avionics.
Understand the coverage areas of the data link you're using. Be totally familiar with the content and format on your specific display.
Understand data integrity limitations and disclaimers. Use the equipment correctly. And avoid information overload. Manage the display so it helps, not distracts.
Those are all vital. Use the tech wisely. Cross-check info. Understand its limits.
Couldn't agree more. Technology is powerful, but the pilot makes the decisions.
Well, that was a really thorough look at aviation weather services. We hope breaking it down like this has clarified things a bit, especially for you newer pilots.
It's a lot, we know, but so important.
Remember, staying informed about weather is absolutely paramount for safe flying. Take the time to explore these resources, practice reading METARs and TAFs.
And never ever hesitate to ask questions during your pre-flight briefing. Ask the briefer to clarify anything you're unsure about. That's what they're there for.
Absolutely. This knowledge won't just make you a safer pilot, it'll make you a much more confident one, too.
Learning weather is a continuous journey. Keep studying, keep asking, keep making informed decisions. Safe flying out there.
Thanks for listening.